are not able to pay our farmers as we could.
Now, mining CS Salim Vuria now says that raw material transportation would require licensing to ministries on illegal trade. Vuria was speaking at the Kenya School of Government where he met regional mining officer. Jimmy Bogo now joins us with more. Good afternoon, Jimmy. Tell us more.
Well, thank you very much, Nakuni, and a very good afternoon to you too. As you rightfully said, we're currently having a discussion around the mining industry, particularly in the country. And one of the things that was happening here is that that is the Cabinet Secretary in the State Department of Mining, that is Salim Vuria, was having a meeting with regional mining officers just to try and streamline how the ministry is going to streamline some of the issues that have popped up. And we just want to have that conversation with the CS now for a few minutes, if you allow me, just to be able to get some of the nitty-gritties of what happened during this meeting. Bona CS, thank you so much for granting us this interview. One of the things that we really want you to help us understand, we know that mining in the country still hasn't gotten to the point where we can say it has a significant contribution to the GDP. What are some of the things that you're currently doing to make sure that you increase the output of the mining sector?
Thank you very much. I think one of the things we've already done is to make sure that we lift the moratorium. The moratorium now has been lifted, and we have been able to group the minerals into two sets. One set of construction and industrial minerals, which is 56 minerals. Investors can immediately make an application on those ones. And then we have the strategic minerals that are for government concession, which are also spread across the country. And also investors can also begin to prepare applications in that regard in conjunction with government agencies and the ministry. The other thing we are doing to spur investment is that we've zoned the country into value addition points. For example, in the coast region, we have already done Gemstone Center in Voi, which we should be opening anytime. We have also been able to ask for expression of interest for fluorspar mining in Elgeyo Marakwet. We've already advertised Vihiga as a center of value addition for granite, and we'll soon be advertising a gold refinery factory for the western region, which will definitely attract international investments. And so that we are able to comply with the international regulations, that is coupled with upgrading Madini House, the lab in Madini, to have international certification, which we are working with the government of Indonesia. And because the sector has scattered investors, we also want to make sure that we organize the artisanal miners into cooperatives so that they can benefit from their investments, and we can link them to financial services. We can also link them to training so that this business being done by millions of Kenyans can be beneficial.
All right,
and our aim is to grow the revenues from 1% of GDP to 10% of GDP, which in actual terms is 3.7 billion to 15 billion.
All right, so for a lot of investors, one of the biggest concerns for them is the bureaucracy, and particularly in as far as licensing goes. So as a ministry, you've talked about streamlining some of these things, and maybe you can also just take us through in terms of other regulatory frameworks that you're currently putting in place to ensure that this process is streamlined and that investors are not frustrated by the bureaucracies in that process.
In fact, part of why we want to meet them tomorrow is to make sure that they understand the process. You see, some of the people complaining to you may have been captured by middlemen because the process of making an application is not bureaucratic. You know, you make your application to the online cadastre, and then it is reviewed by the Mineral Rights Board, and then they make the recommendation. It's not very long, but you see, because some of the investors may not be clear about the process, in between there could be brokers, you know, who take them round and round. That is why we want to have a direct engagement to them so that they can ask us questions. We can also explain to them the reforms, and that when they are doing the applications and they are working in this sector, then there's clarity. And that is why we have resolved to meet all stakeholders so that they can have an understanding and we can agree on the key reforms that we are doing in the ministry.
Or can you talk about the question of making sure that we mechanize the mining process in the country? Of course, every now and then we hear of stories of a collapsed mining site. So how then is the ministry working to make sure that you attract a lot of either local, domestic or foreign investors to just come and mechanize some of this process?
The first step is to organize the artisanal miners into cooperative. You know, once they work as a cooperative society, then it is easy, you know, for them to access equipment, to access training, and to get linked to financial services. And that is why to us is very critical that by December we should have concluded the process of registering them as cooperative societies.
All right, and during the briefing, one of the things that you mentioned is some of these miners requiring licenses to transport some of the minerals that they have. So maybe you can also just take us through that process and what kind of licenses will they be required and what declarations are they expected to make?
What we require them at the port of loading or the point of loading is for them to have a mining permit, transport permit, which they will get from our offices, and the container will be sealed in the presence of the officer, and at the port of export or port of exit, there will be another officer to confirm what has been loaded and what has been offloaded for export. And these are issues that we'll also take on board tomorrow with the investors.
All right, lastly, Waziri, before I let you go, is the question of sustainable mining. And of course, now we're living in an environment that environment retention and just making sure that we take care of the environment is taking center stage. So how are you working with miners to ensure that what we're doing in the country is sustainable?
Part of the compliance during application is for the investor to show how they are going to protect environment. During the mining activity and also post-mining. They need to demonstrate that they are going to take care of the environment. And that is one of the compliance that we look for. And I think those who have been complaining about bureaucracy is the issue of environmental impact assessment, which is critical before a mining license is issued. So maybe there have been weaknesses there before. We want to assure Kenyans that we will be very keen on environmental impact assessment, environmental plans during mining, environmental plans post-mining. That has to be very clear and it should be implemented 100%.
All right, and of course, we'll be looking forward to see the outcome of this process. Of course, there you have it, Nyakundi. We'll be giving you more details in our subsequent bulletins, but for now, back to you.
All right, Jimmy, thank you so much for that. With that, we are going to take a short break. But remember, when we come back, we're going to be speaking to Ivan Gigi and we'll be delving deeper into